afternoon.
My name is Adesua Kiosage.
My name is Banky Wellington.
Yes, I am here today with Banky W. The famous Banky W.
Yes, ma'am.
Nigerian actor, pop star, musician, business owner, pastor, father, husband, and now politician.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and welcome to everyone. As I said, we wear lots of hats.
I do.
You wear lots of hats.
I do.
Also famous for not wearing hats back in the past. I know your trademark. But you were born in America, right?
Yes.
In 1981.
Yes.
So
you've done your research.
So you're a few months older than IB Obanikoro, who you've ran against in the election. And these elections saw, I would say, people in your generation in the forefront in Lagos politics. You had yourself, you had obviously one of the people you ran against, Obanikoro. You had the Lagos Party candidate, the Labour Party candidate for governor, GRV, Bariboros before. And a lot of people felt like young people's time and the young people's party was the Labour Party. So I want to ask, why did you move from the MDP to the PDP?
Okay. So the MDP was the party that I ran on in 2019.
Yes.
And at the time, really the MDP wasn't so much a party per se as it was just two people. BK Olateru Olagbegi, who's my friend and brother, was the chairman of the party, and he was running in Ondo State.
Okay.
And then I was running in Etiosa. And we were the only two candidates that the party had. And it really was just me and my kind of team of volunteers and campaign team, and then BK and his guys. And we just said, you know what? We can't stretch ourselves too thin and, try and put up candidates all over the country. We were just young, independent guys that just felt like this is something that we need to at least try to dip our feet in the water. So we said we would focus on just those two races, which we did. And we ran, pretty good campaigns, the kind of campaigns that a lot of people were proud of. But unfortunately, we didn't win. Now, after coming out of that election season, the law then said any party that didn't win a seat in government had to be deregistered by INEC. And unfortunately, that definitely rubbed some people the wrong way, but it is what it is. That's what the law said. So MDP ceased to exist at that time. Along with, I think we had 96 political parties at the time, which was a lot. It's a lot when you have that many parties, everybody working in silos and independently. And the law, came along and said, hey, if you didn't win a seat, you get deregistered. So MDP ceased to exist from that point. And then, in the couple of years immediately after the elections, 2019, 2020, I wasn't thinking so much about whether I was going to run again, and if I was, where I would run. I just kind of devoted myself to community service, especially in light of the COVID lockdown. We started Lekki Food Bank. My organization did a lot of work just in community service. So that's really where my heart and my head was. Fast forward to this political season, I was looking at the political landscape, especially in Lagos, to say, okay, where can I stand for what I believe in? Where can I have a realistic chance of doing better if I am going to try and put myself up for service again? And that's when conversations started happening with the PDP. Now, there are people at a national and state level, some people who I have a lot of respect for, who I'm quite fond of, who had what I was looking for in terms of integrity and values. And that's not to say that everybody, but there's no collection of people that's perfect. There's no perfect party. There's no perfect church or mosque or school or company. But in looking at the landscape, ironically, you mentioned Badebo Vival. Badebo is my friend. I'd almost say my brother. He's somebody that, we've known each other for a few years. And in fact, Badebo sat me down, took me to lunch, sat me down like this and said, hey, come into the PDP. I'm there. There are people there. There's Saraki there. There's Peter Obi there. There are strong, great candidates there. Let's join hands together and kind of work from the inside. So it was having similar conversation, not just GRV, obviously. There are a lot of amazing leaders at the state, local level, and at the national level who were very welcoming and very helpful. But it was those conversations that made me feel like, hey, you know what? Let's try and do this thing and let's work together. Now it's unfortunate that, politics being what it is, the people that I came to work with left. But that didn't change the way that I felt about I was in the right place for me at this time.
So Weatherwell helped recruit you.
Absolutely.
to join the PDP.
Yes.
And then lost his primaries and then left the party.
Well, I don't know if he lost his primaries,
but he left during the primary.
He saw the writing on the wall and he just felt like it wasn't going to favor him. And maybe he can answer those questions. But it's unfortunate. All of that happened after I had already participated in my primaries. So the National Assembly primaries were first. And I went through blood, sweat, and tears. Level of commitment to not only win, but we won the primaries, and then they tried to take it from us, and then we had to appeal and go through a rerun. It was an entirely difficult process to emerge as the ticket holder for the House of Reps primaries, but we did it. And it was after the National Assembly primaries that we started seeing some of the people that I'm quite fond of and that I was looking forward to partnering with now left because the primaries that they were looking at they just didn't like the way the numbers were looking for them. And it is what it is, right? It's politics. You respect everybody's decisions, but I stand by the decisions that I made.
People often say that politics is a game of interests.
Right. Yes.
And those alliances can shift at any time.
Yeah, that's true.
Including party alliance.
That's true. I mean, well, the reality is that's one of the things that the Electoral Act tried to fix. So the Electoral Act says if you have participated in a primaries, you can't move. In other words, if you move, you leave whatever seat or ticket or whatever is behind. So even if you've won an election and you then try to, because we saw a lot of that in 2019 and previous years where somebody would win and then immediately after they're switching. So the Electoral Act did a lot to try and sanitize the system, and I think that that's one of the benefits of the National Assembly is to look at things and say, how can we make our laws better? People talk a lot about the Constitution and the issues that we have with some of the laws that are in the Constitution. The Constitution is a flawed document. It's not a final one. So we're supposed to look at them and amend them based on prevailing conditions and just what's happening in society. So, like you said, alliances change in politics, but I think for me, we also kind of need to look, especially now in Etiosa where we're going for this supplementary election, we need to look beyond party alliances and look at people and say, okay, everybody, the three candidates are in different parties, fine. But of these three candidates, who do people feel strongest about in terms of who's coming in here to serve, who's coming in here to help, who's coming in here with a fresh set of ideas, who's coming in here with a level of competency and character to try and deliver on the mandate for the people of Etiosa. And I think that that's the question. So, we will see how Etiosa decides. I am very hopeful and optimistic that the people will give me that opportunity to serve. Ultimately, it's up to them and the grace of God. And I'm comfortable with the will of the people and the grace of God. We'll see what happens.
So let's learn a little bit about Banky W.
Okay.
A lot of people know a lot of things about you already. You were, as you said, you were born in America. Where in America?
I was born in Iowa, believe it or not. I know, it's very random.
It is so random. I think this is a game of
very random. Yes. My parents at the time were blessed with scholarship opportunities in Iowa. And so they kind of were dating when they were here, but my dad went first and then my mom found her way there as well.
Yeah.
And they got married and they started having kids and out popped myself.
Are you the first?
No, I'm not. I'm the third actually.
Of how many?
Of 5. I'm the
Oh,
third of five
wow.
children. Yes, I have an older sister,
Mm.
an older brother, and two younger brothers. So I'm the middle child.
You're the middle child.
Yes, yes.
Oh, middle children are
Fantastic. What do you mean?
middle children have interesting character
Yes,
traits, I
yes.
think.
Middle children were the ones that fly under the radar.
Mm.
You don't. You're not spoiled like the last child. Sorry for me, the last one. But you're also not the first. You're just
You don't
kind
have
of
the
right there in
responsibility
the
of
middle,
this.
just so you get to find your way.
And how old were you when you came back to Nigeria?
I was about, I'd say, 4 years old, give or
Okay,
take.
so quite
Pretty
early.
young. Yes, I was pretty young.
And you went to school in Lagos?
I went to Corona Ikoyi,
Mm.
Corona Primary School in Ikoyi. I went to Home Science Secondary School, which was originally in Ikoyi as well, but then the school was getting so big at the time that they moved. They left the primary school there, but they moved the secondary school to Alakoko.
Okay.
So I moved with the school. Somewhere in the mix of that, I think my GS2 year, I went to Adrao Secondary School in VI, but predominantly I went to Home Science Secondary School. Graduated from there, moved back to the States. I attended university at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is a fantastic school in New York, where I studied industrial engineering. And
You studied engineering?
I did.
You know, for some reason I assumed you study like audio engineering. You study industrial
No,
engineering.
industrial engineering. Not had nothing. Here was the thing. So when I was coming up,
Yeah.
I think things have changed now, but in my time, and probably the time before mine, you could be one of five things as a Nigerian child. You could be an engineer,
Doctor,
a doctor,
lawyer,
a lawyer, an accountant, or a
architect.
failure.
Oh, a failure. Oh, wow.
So, but back then it was like.
But also, I mean, that's right. But it's also for a certain class of people, and you are a little bit of a silver spoon.
Well, first of all, thank God we don't look like what we've been through. But secondly, I think if not everybody has the opportunity to go to university, and that's completely fine.
Yes.
And I think no matter what class of life someone finds themselves in, the idea is that you make the most of whatever opportunities that you have. When I was coming out of secondary school going into university, I was fortunate enough to apply for and get some level of scholarships because the school that I attended at the time, my parents definitely could not have afforded it. But thank God for His grace, I did get some scholarships. And then back to the choice of what to study. The way that I always thought about things was, I wanted to study something that would give me the greatest shot at having a backup plan to what I really wanted to try and do, which obviously was music and film and entertainment and business and all of that. But I thought it was important to take advantage of the open door of a scholarship that God had given me to get a degree that's bad as it bad, I can still get a job somewhere, So that was and I was always pretty good at math and science. So I thought, okay, I can do my music, on nights and weekends on the side. I can hustle my way through to learn what I need to learn to make that happen.
Yeah.
But at least let me get a solid degree from a great school so that if none of these things work out that I'm trying, worst case scenario, I can always come back and get a job. And that's why I stayed.
So you had plan B. Engineering was your plan B.
Yes.
And you moved back to Nigeria when?
I moved back to Nigeria right around Valentine's Day 2008.
Why Valentine's?
So in 2007,
yeah,
I had released. I was thinking of doing a mixtape, like not for sale, promotional use only mixtape, where I was going to take 10 popular songs and reward them just for fun, And so I took the Umbrella song and changed it into Epute Meta. And I didn't even really promote it. I just kind of handed it to one or two DJ friends of mine that here, when you're spinning at a club or whatever, you can play it. And the thing took off and it was doing so well that people started calling me from Nigeria that, come, your song is on the radio, and all of this. So I immediately scrapped the plans for the rest of the mixtape because the song almost got too big because that's all people then wanted to hear. They were not really listening to the other original music that I had. But it started to open the door for me to see what was going on in the music scene back home in entertainment. I met people like LD. who really kind of just schooled me to like what people now call Afro beats and Afro R&B and Afro hip hop and all of that. And I just started learning about the scene and the artists. And so in 2000, okay, so I came back in 2007 for my sister's wedding, and I took some time off of work. By this time, I was working for an engineering company, but I took some time off of work just to kind of come and see what is happening. You know,
Lay of
see
the
the scene,
land.
just see the lay
Yeah.
of the land, and try and understand if it was somewhere where I could set myself up as an artist and a businessman for the future. And then I went back, and beginning of 2008, I was still going to work in at this engineering company. But you know how you can be sitting somewhere and you just feel like I'm not meant to be here. It's tough to explain, but it
I
speaks to
think,
purpose.
yeah.
It speaks to calling, to purpose, to meaning. Because the problem we make, or the mistake we make for a lot of young people, is that we think that we're chasing money. But then if it was money that was the key to to happiness, then billionaires would never commit suicide, right? People who made a lot of money would always be perennially happy. So it's a scary thing when you get to the place where you are making money and you realize that that's you're still empty, you still come up short, you're still missing something.
Yeah.
And for me, I was now working for this engineering company, and I was making some pretty good money out of the university for a young person. But I just knew that this was not meant to be my life. I'm not supposed to be here. And then so I started kind of thinking and meditating and praying about, do I go back to Nigeria? That just felt like my heart was telling me that that's where I was meant to be.
Absolutely can.
And then I got an offer for a show actually at Apti University, American University in Yola, which happens to be His Excellency Atiku's university. But they made an offer to my manager at the time, Shagun Dimura. I said, "Oh, we'd like him to come and play our Valentine's Day show."
Oh.
And it was, I think they were going to pay me something like 400K or something like that, which nobody had ever paid me that amount of money to sing a song at an event. Most of the time is you're begging to perform or whatever. And that was the first time that I was getting like that amount of money. So for me, it was a sign that this
There's
thing can
something
work.
here.
There's something here. Now, I didn't know that when I moved back, there would be nothing after that for a very long time. But it was enough encouragement to be like, let me try this thing and see. And so I moved back to do that show, and I've been here ever since.
I would say it's very interesting how life works. That your first paid, big gig, is American University, which is owned by Atiku
Yes,
Abubakar.
yeah, there's a certain synergy in that.
Because you supported him during the election, obviously as a PDP presidential candidate.
Yes.
And I would say, as your constituency was moving, I feel like you got a lot of flack for that.
Well, I think we have to get to the point where, as a people, we pay attention to the people running for office. And so I think the mistake that we make as young people is that we put so much emphasis on the presidency or maybe presidency and governors, but we don't really look down the ballot to see who's running for the Senate, who's running for the House of Reps, who's running for local government chairman, who are the councillors in my constituency. Those positions are as important as the president, arguably close, maybe not, obviously not the power of the presidency, but in terms of the laws that govern our society, the policies that end up passing, for instance, the Not Too Young to Run bill, that's an act of the National Assembly. So the society that we live in is governed by laws and policies. And it's people at these various levels that have a say in the kind of society that we live in. And it's unfortunate because people get really swept up in the mania of the presidential race, and that's fine, and it is important, but it's also important to look down the ballot and pay attention so that you're not running from frying pan into fire. So,
but why were you supporting him?
So for me, I actually felt that the PDP would have stood the greatest chance of winning if they had just maintained His Excellency Atiku and His Excellency Peter Obi on the same team for these elections. In fact, 10 months before the elections happened, right around the primary season when I started seeing what was happening, I actually was talking to somebody who's very close to me, and I said, what's going to end up happening is that the opposition is going to be split three ways. Atiku, Obi, and Kwankwaso will split the opposition votes, and it will guarantee that the APC would return.
Yeah.
And that's actually what happened, because you can't have a divided opposition and expect to unseat the ruling party. It's close to impossible. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't find a way, in terms of the presidential conversation and at a national level, to say, keep these guys together. And we saw really what happened with some of the governors within the PDP being aggrieved for one reason or another. But it's just unfortunate to me that we couldn't find a way to keep the team together, because if we had, then it'd be a different conversation, nationally. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and it is where it is. So, my focus now is this supplementary election. It's up to the people of Etiosa ultimately to decide. But if they do come out in their numbers, and if they look at the three of us, I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that by God's grace, the people will give us a chance. And I think we do stand a very good chance to emerge.
So I find that, I want to ask if you find the whole politicking of elections as a difficult, because I think politics itself in Nigeria is not unlike anything else.
Right.
And it's not necessarily related to governance or the actual work which you are vying for, right? Nothing about being a good politician will make you a good legislator or a good senator, for example. The skills required are
different.
are very different. But I want to ask you if you found these last elections, especially 2023, if you found yourself in a difficult position, because I do see that you have PDP stakeholders who feel that you are not loyal to the party as you're new in the party.
Really?
Okay. Yes.
If you say so.
Or you okay. Or you might, or people who are your constituents who feel that Labour Party is a party of the youth, and as a member of the youth you should be a Labour, you should have been in the Labour Party.
Well, I think that's an interesting train of thought. There's a few things that come to mind. One, the presidential candidate and the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party are actually PDP people.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah. They were at the start of the...
They were, and then,
yes.
The game being what it is, they ended up leaving at essentially the last minute to go elsewhere. And then, so I think, again, I come back to the thought of the Nigerian people have to get to the place where we're now paying attention, because the PDP was the right place for me to be.
You say like it was.
Sorry, the PDP is the right place for me to be.
Okay.
And there are leaders at the national and the state and the local level who've been fantastic for me. But the reality is there a certain level of frustration amongst young people or people in various constituencies with the PDP or the APC or any political party? Absolutely. And we cannot deny that is the case. But like I've said before, I'm not in the PDP to defend its history. I'm in the PDP to help reform and redefine its future. I'm in the PDP to say this thing can be done differently. And the challenge really goes to like minds who have abstained from the political process. Plato once said that the punishment for not getting involved in politics is that you will end up being ruled by your inferiors. Now, I've sat in rooms with entrepreneurs, with friends, with colleagues, with business peers, and most of the time, it is really hard to find somebody who is a card-carrying member of any political party in those rooms.
Yes.
The generation has abstained from politics. We've seen it as a dirty and a dangerous game, and it has been, but it will always continue to be so as long as we continue to sit out of the process. So the idea and the message has to be, number one, get involved. If we wait until election season, it's already too late.
And it's also, if we wait until the presidential cycle, because we have local elections
Yes,
coming
we
up.
do. We do. But if we, so I'm even saying, if you even wait until elections,
yes.
it's already too late. Why?
Yeah.
Because primaries have already happened.
Yep.
So the process that produces the choices that you have has already taken place.
Yep.
So we need to get to the place where, as young people, as progressive people, as enlightened people, as educated people, as people who are chasing something in their lives, get involved in this. Join any political party. I prefer that you join me where I am, but join one and be a part of the process. Attend ward meetings. Delegates select so that citizens can elect.
Yep.
So if you wait until the point of election, that selection process is already done. So that has to be the focus now. How do we get like-minded, right-thinking people involved in the political process?
Yeah.
How do we join parties? How do we become delegates? How do we attend ward meetings? The problems in Nigeria are from the top down, but many of the solutions are from the bottom up. But we have to be willing to do that work and to go through that process. And that's been my message.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing now. When it comes down to it, the choice will still fall on us as a nation and as various federal constituencies in various states and local governments to see, at these levels, at least pay attention to who your options are, and then make what you genuinely feel is the right choice. And if you do that, then it's fine. Okay. But if you say, oh, is dangerous, I'm not involved, or because of this, I'm going to do that, you could end up in a situation where we're running from frying pan and we're entering fire because we've ignored the process. Democracy is beautiful and painful. Beautiful in the sense that we all reap the reward of getting involved. Painful in the sense that our ignorance becomes our punishment. So if we're not paying attention, what we end up with is what we get. Yeah. So we have to pay attention and we have to get involved.
I think I agree with you, and it's a conversation I have all the time. I tell everyone I know, get it, become a card carrying member of a political party.
Yes.
It's very difficult because parties don't have ideologies.
Yeah, well,
right.
Some don't.
I don't think there's any, like you'd say in the traditional sense. I don't think you'd say like there's a party ideology. I know a lot of PDP people consider themselves quite Republican, not in the conservative way that I see it in America, but like Republican in terms of how they see governance.
Right.
But I would not say that there are party ideologies that if I'm a conservative, I go here. If I'm anti this, I go here.
Yeah.
And so I understand why some people find it difficult, because also politicians are jumping from party to party. As you said, some of the people who invited you into a party hopped out before your election day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality.
So if you go to a party because you're like, I like this guy and I like this guy, and the guy hops off and leaves you there, you might become disillusioned. But I honestly do think that the average person, and I tell any young person I know, become a card carrying member of any party.
Here's what I want to say about ideology. I think you're right in terms of the traditional sense of ideologies, especially if you look at the Democratic Party or the Republican Party in the States, right? There's liberals, there's conservatives, and you kind of know what that means when you're joining a party. Here, I would say the PDP, for instance, the probably the overriding ideology is democracy. In other words, that when PDP says power to the people, that's exactly what they mean. So, for instance, when I was joining the party, there were people at various levels who were very welcoming to me and very encouraging. Say, hey, it's great that you are coming on board. This is fantastic. But nobody can impose you on your constituency. This isn't Baba Sokwe politics. So nobody can tell the people of Etiosa that are delegates to say, you must have this guy. So you have to go in there and win the hearts of the people who will be voting in your primaries. No national leader can enforce. So when I say it's democracy, it's, democracy is only as good as the people that are involved in it. And this comes back to what we were saying earlier about getting involved, because if the majority of the people that are involved are bad, then the results of the process will be bad. But if the majority, or if more of the people are good, then the results have a chance to be better. I'm a Christian, and it's part of my identity of who I am. And when I read scripture and I see that Jesus said that we're meant to be the light of the world, it's ironic. I just remembered something. I did a post the other day where I was speaking at a couple of Christian conferences, and a young lady left a comment on my in the comment section of the post, and she said, "Oh, why am I low-key happy you didn't win? He didn't win his election, because he's now doing the Lord's work. This is your calling, sir. This is fantastic." Oh, so she meant it well. She didn't mean it in a malicious kind of way, but I think she was incredibly misguided, because God called us to be light in darkness. Can we think of many spaces that are darker than our politics? Can we think of many places that need light more? Need light, need like-minded people, need right-thinking people than this system. I mean, if God didn't want his children in politics, then there would be no Joseph in the Bible. There'd be no Daniel. There'd be no Esther. If Esther doesn't go into the palace, the Jews die. If Joseph was not Pharaoh's second in command, the Jews die. So this thing about getting involved, and not just going for marches and protests. And I've done a lot of that. So I'm speaking from something that I know. I've been involved. I've led peaceful protests. You name it, for the last 10, 15 years, I've done probably more peaceful protests than most people that I know. But you see, a march is easy, because you hear of a march, you wear your t-shirt and your sneakers, you're out the door, you're part of the march, you're part of the movement. Participating in our elections and in our politics is different, because if you're even going to vote, you have to first register online. You have to do your biometrics. You have to go and pick up your card. You have to show up on election day. You might have to wait in line until INEC shows off, and all of the complications around that. Then there's now being a card-carrying member of a party. You have to attend ward meetings, sometimes under a tree somewhere in your neighborhood. Do you understand? There's a commitment that this takes. And that's why I say this elections are an event, but nation building is a lifetime commitment. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we have to have that level of commitment to this idea of nation building, that this thing is going to take a while, but we are here for it and we'll be involved in it.